Hi friends, it's Gwen. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here to do a fun little video. I'm going to be reading 1-star reviews of my favorite books. I have chosen 7 books. Tomorrow, The Giver, The Collected Regrets of Clover, The Light Pirate, Last Night at the Lobster, The 7-Year Slip, and Such Sharp Teeth. So I'm going to go through the 1-star reviews on Goodreads for these books, and I'm gonna let them roast my favorite books. So I just am doing this for fun. Everybody has different reading tastes. I talk about it all the time. What works for me may not work for someone else, and vice versa. And even when I did, back in December, I did books that I DNF'd in 2024, I showed that people rated those books 5 stars and showed some, really great reviews of books that I DNF'd. So everybody's reading taste is different. If you liked these books, if you didn't like these books, that's perfectly okay. But I loved all of these books. I rated all of them 5 stars. Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin and The Giver by Lois Lowry are 2 of my all-time, lifetime favorite books. And I have more favorites. So if you like this, maybe I'll do a part 2. Let me know in the comment section down below. But without further ado, let's get started with my favorite book of all time, Tomorrow. Okay, so let's see. Okay, Katie says, this was a hard pass for me. I know I'm in the minority, but I do not need to be emotionally and traumatically destroyed while reading. The prose was pretentious and unnecessary. Both characters are rather insufferable, immature, and showed no growth. For a book supposedly celebrating friendship, this was the definition of a toxic, unhealthy, platonic relationship between male and female. I'm honestly not sure what the moral of the story was, other than let's make sure to include every single controversial issue possible and make our stance known. I also really despise murky endings. So Katie had a lot to say. Okay, let's read another one. My gosh, this book was never ending. It felt like the same story over and over. Friends fight, make up, and make a video game together, fight again, and everyone switches partners, make another game. I'm sorry, but none of the characters were convincing. Would you really call your unborn child a parasite? Would you really not talk to your business partner for months? Not talk to your best friend for years because of one little tiff? Everyone is reviewing this book as some great example of friendship, but that's not how I treat my friends. I kept hoping it would get better, but it never did. Well, thank you for your thoughts, Julie. And one more. A book that felt more and more like a punishment to read as it progressed. There was at least one description or piece of dialogue that annoyed me on every page. The characters are all annoying and unrealistic. All of the games sound terrible. They made the weird decision to actually create Emily Blaster Online for publicity purposes. I have played it and it is as irritating and poorly conceived as it was in the novel. The dialogue never sounds like how people actually speak, particularly for any characters who are of non-Caucasian background. There are too many ideas and none of them are interesting or dramatic. The constant narrative and tell don't show approach is infuriating. I could go on. Please do yourself a favor and don't go near this. Ignore the ridiculously high Goodreads ratings. I can't believe this heinous piece of writing made it past the first person Zevin shared it with. So yeah, these people did not like this book. But yeah, I loved it. 5 stars. I thought it was great. I loved the friendship. I loved the relationships. I loved the dramatics of it all. I loved the video game aspect. I love how it focused on creating art and what that means. I liked the ending and I cried. So, all right, let's move on to The Giver by Lois Lowry. I actually just read this as my first book of the new year, and I loved it just as much on second reread that I did the first time I reread it and the initial time that I read it. Let's see what the people have to say about The Giver. Okay, wow, this is quite a long one. I'm trying to find like shorter ones so I can like screenshot them. Okay. This one says, dang, I kind of don't care. I think I've gotten too old to read books about 12-year-olds doing crazy, impressive things. It just doesn't make as much sense to me. You couldn't pay me to care. Just kidding. $5 is $5. Plus, I don't think I like dystopian. Anyways, a solid 1 star. Well, thanks, Brianna, for that. Okay, here's a short one. Definitely don't see what all the fuss is about. The writing is so drab and ceaselessly monotonous that watching paint dry must be infinitely more interesting than reading this. Maybe I'll give it another go one day when I have more patience. I was interested start to finish. I don't know what these people are talking about. I'll do a couple short ones. Muhammad said, I'm so sorry, but I just didn't enjoy this book. And Jerry said, I know this book is a classic, but it did absolutely nothing for me. So does your comment. So does your review. Okay, so like I said, there are some longer ones that I just can't screenshot and share, but they were really roasting hard on the book. Let me try to focus on this review. Okay, who writes reviews this long? What is actually happening? Like, are we done yet? What? Are you seeing this? What? Who does that? I'm exhausted. Okay, we're moving on to the next book, The Collected Regrets of Clover. Ah, I love this book. A very long review, very long review. How do people spend this much time writing a 1-star book review? I don't understand. Okay, here's one. They DNF'd it. It says, DNF, a collected regret of mine is picking this as my book of the month. I made it halfway through the book after a month and not excited to read it, so I'm calling it quits. The main character is so odd and not in a compelling way. The plot you're promised on the sleeve isn't set into motion by the halfway point of the book. I'm tired and don't have the energy to continue on with this flop. Fair enough. Fair enough. This one says, clunky, overly sentimental, unrealistic. The main character was infuriating and inconsistent. I persevered because of the book club, but I wish I hadn't. And let's see another one. Man, people write these long reviews. Lindsay wrote, this was a collected regret. DNF. That is funny. Okay, Sarah says, hated it. I only finished it for my book club. Been there, done that, Sarah. I couldn't stand Clover. I also didn't find the death scenes to be believable at all, and I've been with a lot of people when they died. This book was like the literary version of a bad Hallmark movie with C-list actors who were mildly famous 30 years ago. Truly one of the worst books I have read in a long time. This is cracking me up. Okay. Now let's just move on. We're moving on to The Light Pirate, which I read last year and absolutely loved. But I'm sure not everybody feels the same way I do. Also, I haven't looked these reviews up before. I'm literally looking them up live with you right now. Okay, let's start with Kevin's review. I honestly have zero idea what this book is about. I don't think the author knew what kind of book they wanted it to be. Is it a coming of age story? Is it about an apocalyptic dystopia? Is it a romance novel? Is it a cautionary tale about the human involvement regarding the erosion of our plants, he meant planet climate, and the devastating effects it would have on us as species? I have no idea. It's sad. The entire book is sad. And why the hell does the little girl glow in the water? I have no idea, man. Okay, first of all, it's all of those things. It can be all of those things as long as the author tackles them well. And she did. So, moving on. Let's see. Oh, this is a long one. We don't have time for the long reviews. Okay. If a mutant from X-Men with lame, uninteresting powers ended up in The Walking Dead, the later seasons when deaths are used as blatant plot devices, except with hurricanes instead of zombies, and then it all becomes a mashup of Waterworld, Still Alice, and Go Fish, but not in an interesting way. I loved that review, actually. That is cracking me up. So boring and stupid, mindless ending. It took me forever to finish because I could not concentrate on the nothing story. Political correctness abounds. Okay, let's move on to the last night at the Lobster. Long review. We don't have time for that. Okay. I got to page 40 and then the main character started shoveling the sidewalk. Then it takes him 2 full pages to describe the shoveling process. I knew it was time to quit. Okay. Do you remember those essays you wrote in high school? The ones in which you would choose some small moments in time or an animate object and describe it ad nauseum? Welcome to Last Night at the Lobster. 146 pages detailing a single day in the life of a man whose only redeeming quality is his love for his recently deceased grandmother. And honestly, I thought he was maybe a little overly obsessed with her until he noted her recent passing. Basically, the narrator is a cheating ass of a man whose restaurant is closing. I certainly can empathize with his over sentimentality at leaving a retail job, and I do admire his work ethic and desire to cheer on the little guy, but that's about it. And yes, I was deeply unimpressed long before I got to the line, there was a useless Walden Books, which if the author had decent copy editor, fact checker, would have been corrected to Walden Books, one word. Just not anything I would waste my time on under normal circumstances. It was depressing, slow, and unnerving. What? I don't even know. I read for my book group. Very disappointing. All the rave reviews about how funny it is are nonsense. No plot line. This small book just recounts the last night of a business for a Red Lobster restaurant in Connecticut just 4 days before Christmas. Glad it was available from the library. Otherwise, it would have been a total waste of money. Not recommended. Okay, well, you know, they can't all be winners. Let's move on to the 7-year slip. Like when you write an essay paper about a 1-star review, like I just don't understand. This is a long one. Some of these long ones are good though, but I can't read the long ones or share the long ones with you. Okay, this one just says, so stupid. It's so highly rated that I'm wondering whether I read the same book as everyone else. Girl was in love triangle with same man and it was boring as all hell. I don't know what I missed here. The reviews are high, mostly 5 stars, but this was the most boring book I've ever read. I found it lifeless and lackluster. It didn't excite me at all, and the only reason I finished it is because I'm not a quitter. Granted, the last few chapters were great, but it felt rushed. Everything just fell into place nicely, and it was a bit of an eye roll after so much turbulence the entire time. Suddenly, life just worked itself out. It's only 300 or so pages and took me almost a week to read because I just didn't want to get through it. I can barely even bring myself to write any more of this review because I just want to be done with it and get into something more exciting. LOL. I loved that review. One day I'm gonna find a 5-star romance book, but today is not that day. I love that one too. Okay, moving on to our last book, Such Sharp Teeth, which is probably the only Rachel Harrison book I have enjoyed. Man, some people are just, man, people are like barf, dog crap, like this person says finished purely out of spite. I love it. I'm not digging this. DNF at 18%. The main character is annoying me with all her WTF is going on. I only picked it up because it's the same author who wrote Cackle. I don't know how anyone could read this and actually enjoy it. I'll write the rest of this review in her style. It was repetitive. She repeated herself and she liked it. She knew that she was restating what she said and it felt good, but it wasn't good. It wasn't good at all. Like reviews like that crack me up. I'm sorry, I thought this was a werewolf book, not a boring, dry romance family drama book. Seems I was duped. This was some teens Twilight-inspired original fiction published on Wattpad, and I would respect it more. Expected werewolves got dumb chicklet relationships and babies. Oh my goodness, this is crazy. I'm so glad to be free of this book. Nothing happens and every character is annoying. Okay, I think I'm gonna wrap things up there. Some of these absolutely cracked me up. Have you ever gone back and checked out 1-star reviews of your favorite books? Let me know if you have and what were the results. So I just did this for fun. I had a lot of fun doing it actually. And like I said, I may do a part 2 if you like this. So give this video a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed to my channel so you don't miss the next time I post. That's all for today's video. So I hope you're all having a lovely day or night, and I'll see you guys again in another video very soon. Bye friends.